Okay, hello everybody. We're back with another author interview. I'm here today with Ben Wilder, who wrote a book that we're publishing called Jesus in the Buddha Belt. And Ben, it's great to have you here. Before we get into the book, though, I'm sure there's people listening that don't really know you that well. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hey, thanks, dude. It's good to be here. I'm excited to talk with you about the book. Uh, for people who don't know me, I just thought I'd start off with the juicy stuff. I thought that I had the uncoveted gift that Paul mentions in First Corinthians chapter 7. You know what gift I'm talking about, right?
I do, yes, but I don't think that's the case given that I know you a little bit.
I thought I was going to be like Paul, a single missionary, and I moved to Myanmar that way. Shortly after college, but God smashed my plans, gave me a beautiful wife and four amazing children. Uh, it's good how God changes our plans. Four kids later, I'm very much not a single Pauline missionary, but have had an amazing experience with my family and super thankful that God crushed those plans and had a better plan. Just on a personal level, I'm kind of a coffee snob. I love craft coffee, all different kinds of brewing methods. I love sports, pretty much all sports, and I love fast cars. But I did sell my V8 Mustang and buy a four-cylinder Saturn when I moved back to the States. Uh, so anyway,
That's quite a downgrade for sure.
better gas mileage.
Yes, yeah, no doubt. That's you become a family man, things change. You mentioned being in Myanmar and this book, Jesus in the Buddha Belt, is I assume a play on words. Tell us about how you came up with this title, what it means.
So I grew up in the Bible Belt, and I mean, I like to say the buckle of the Bible Belt, and we have churches and seminaries, billboards with Jesus on them, Christian radio stations, bookstores, everywhere. And I remember the first time in Myanmar, I walked up to the Shwedagon Pagoda, and it's the most famous pagoda there in Myanmar, and one of the most famous in Southeast Asia. And when you walk up as a tourist, they take you up to a very clean side where there's really no one and nothing happening, and just take you in this kind of very manicured way. But one time, as I was living there, I walked up the back way. I'm walking down this street to the biggest pagoda, and just seeing this street packed with vendors, and they're carving statues right there, as I'm walking down the road. And, and then there's another shop where they're selling statues, and then there's a lady who's selling these sparrows and saying, you can get merit for setting a sparrow free. And I'm walking up here, and then I go up these stairs, many stairs to walk up to this biggest Buddhist temple in Myanmar, and I see people bowing down to statues, and I'd never seen that before, and really there are more Buddhists in Myanmar and in the Buddha Belt countries than there are in the Bible Belt by percentage. And so it hit me as I was walking up that thing. I've left the Bible Belt, and I am now in the Buddha Belt, and it just kind of became a paradoxical, kind of powerful way for me to think about that part of the world. And, there are other countries across Southeast Asia that are majority Buddhist, and all together they kind of make up this Buddha Belt idea. And that's where the title came from.
Very good. Yeah, that's a great explanation. I haven't thought about that before, this idea of there being like that same idea in other religious, geographical locations, and there's, places where they're more centralized or whatever. So that's interesting. So given that, you wrote a book that is full. I mean, I remember reading your manuscript, and just being blown away by the stories. Really powerful. I thought, wow, this would be everybody should read this. That was sort of my initial thought. But when you're writing it, who did you have in mind as like, this is sort of my target audience? Who's the person that I think would be the ideal reader?
Yeah, you know, I first started writing the book kind of thinking about two things and two kinds of people. I mean, one is kind of what motivated me to write the book. And I kind of joke that if I would have really known what all was involved in writing and publishing a book, I wouldn't have done it. And it's like, not really, I would have, but oh,
Hmm.
wow, I would really count the costs. It's, you know, it's a very involved process, but starting off to write the book without knowing all of that, I wrote it because meeting these people, these simple people of faith in this impoverished nation where they face a lot of opposition for following Jesus, I was so inspired by their lives. And, you know, I found actually that these people had a deeper experience of Jesus than I personally had and that I had seen in the Bible Belt. And I want other people to be able to have that experience. You know, it's not as good as going over there and meeting these people. But, you know, the reality is most people can't go over there and they can't, you know, they don't have time to learn the language and build these relationships to meet these people. But you know, through this book, I try to introduce those people, and I think that people will be inspired by these simple people of faith and the things that they go through. So that was kind of one level, and that's kind of one group of people I was thinking about, and that's really just any Christian who wants to learn about different places and how God's working there, and you know, be inspired by it. These are biographical memoirs, you know,
Hmm.
and so beyond that, kind of the really the people I think who will benefit the most from the book are people who are interested in mission to Buddhist at any level. You know, they may be praying for, you know, missionaries that are living in the Buddhist world, or they may be planning to go on a short-term mission trip, you know, to work with Buddhists or long-term missions, you know, or they may just want to learn how to better share the gospel with their Buddhist neighbor or coworker. But anybody specifically interested in mission to Buddhists, I think, that's the group that has the most to benefit from the book. Although I didn't try to write it in a way that people who are not deeply invested in the nuances of Buddhism won't be overwhelmed by it, but they'll still be wrapped up, you know, able to just enjoy the stories and benefit from them. It's kind of a side thing that's not really, you know, wasn't designed this way. But I do also believe that, you know, two other groups can benefit from the book. I hope that people who are Buddhist people who are exploring Jesus will find this book helpful because they see how other Buddhists have encountered Jesus and how they processed Jesus in light of their, you know, former belief systems and things like this. And I also feel like, you know, when I go to like the store here in the States now, I see Buddhist statues, you know, and I feel like there's this cool like Buddhist ideas about Buddhism in the States now. It's not based on reality. Cool ideas people have about Buddhism. I used to have
Hmm.
those ideas too until I moved there and started to learn about it and see how Buddhism actually works and plays out in people's lives. And I think that if there are Christians who are exploring Buddhism, that also they would benefit from this book. But the primary audience is Christians who want to grow in their faith, learn about how God's working in other places, and even more specifically, people who are interested in Buddhist mission.
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think that it's definitely a faith strengthener when you read these stories. Can you give us, I don't want you to, no spoilers, but can you give us a little bit of it? Like, what are these stories about? What, we haven't mentioned that at all. Like, what is it that you're actually telling in this book?
Yeah, so it's for Myanmar people and how they came to know Jesus and everything that happened after that. And the first character is he was a Buddhist monk, and he actually left the monastery before he met Jesus because he realized that he couldn't follow the teaching of the Buddha. He came to meet Jesus in a supernatural way, and he goes through just a series of deep challenges in his life. But with all of that, considers suffering with Jesus better than all of the things that he had as a Buddhist monk, because Buddhist monks are really like considered gods in the Buddhist world, and they're like the top people in society. And he gave all that up for Jesus, but didn't want to go back to it, even when he was offered the chance. Another character, the second character, is a grew up as a Christian, nominal Christian, but he wasn't really born again. and he had an encounter with Jesus where he was born again and just it changed his life and set him on a trajectory of actually becoming a missionary to an area that really had no Christians, and all the way across the country. His life has been very inspiring, and all the things he went through, and honestly, not seeing as much fruit as he wanted to, but seeing how God was working in all of the things that he went through, even in some very supernatural ways. Two of the other characters are Burmese people who grew up as Buddhists, and both of them actually moved to the city from the urban areas, which is a big trend in the world, but in Myanmar, more and more people are moving from rural areas to urban areas, and these guys came to know Jesus when they moved to the city, and all the things that they went through. That's about all I had to say without giving spoilers.
Yeah, that's great. That's helpful to see, and to sort of get a picture that we're talking about real people and their stories and how that changed their lives. And honestly, what you're telling it very quickly, but your writing is actually very captivating and enrapturing. And so it's the stories come alive, and I mean, like I was crying, and it was they're very powerful. So you mentioned, the sort of the arduous journey of the book writing, probably harder than the getting to know these guys and much harder than just enjoying their lives. But talk about what did you most and or least enjoy in the writing process and in getting this book finally to the place where it's going to be launched?
Yeah, the part that I enjoyed the most was the pre-writing, like you said, building these relationships and just the experiences of living in that part of the world. That enabled writing the book. Over 20 years. I consider it a special privilege and stewardship to have that experience. And then the most, I think, enjoyable part of the writing process was the rough draft because because you're not thinking about all the details. You're just
Mhm.
writing down the stories, and it's just neat to see how that comes out. And then you've got the basis of it, but then the part I least enjoyed was the third draft, the fourth draft, the fifth draft. like, and after a while, you're just like, oh, because honestly, the drafts could never end. You can always improve. And, I was learning about writing as I was editing, and, you continue to improve the book. So after a while, those edits just start to get really, really tedious, and you just don't want to do it anymore. But, you need to, you just want to make it as good as you can.
Yeah, that's a lot of perseverance. Well done. And I think that having read it again, I can say it was worth it for sure. Thank you, Ben. I am grateful for this time. Is there anything else, like we talked about it, the stuff, and it's I think hopefully this is enough people that have listened in will have what they need to go get the book, read it, give it to their friends, give it to everybody in their church, but what else, anything else you want to add before we go?
Yeah, I just want to say Jesus Christ is the greatest treasure, and I'm so thankful to know him. And I also want to thank William Carey for partnering with me to publish this book. And if you have watched or listened to this all the way till now, I want to thank you, and I hope you enjoy the book.
Amen. Yeah, well, if they take the time to read it, whoever's listening, they will definitely enjoy it. So, thank you, Ben, and we look forward to maybe the next book, the next set of stories. Who knows when that'll be? But thank you for this time, and may God bless your continued work among Buddhists.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. It's been an honor and a privilege.